Hello, students, and welcome back to Mr. Sandwich Reads. I am Mr. Sandwich. I realize it's been a little bit since I posted a chapter from The King of Mulberry Street. Now, I did record it was so good. I recorded an awesome reading of chapter 16, where I last left off yesterday, and it was kaput. The file did not go through for whatever reason. So I may break this up into smaller chunks. That way, if I lose any, I don't lose 20 minutes of reading. This rereading of chapter 16, More and More Money, goes out to Jennifer G. in Madison, New Jersey, who left me a comment letting me know this has been helpful and appreciated. I think that's great. I was happy to hear that. So thank you, Jennifer, for letting me know. Hopefully your students haven't been left hanging, as it's been probably at least a month since I last left off with my reading of The King of Mulberry Street. But always enjoyable. I told you this book had everything. It has sandwiches. It has the semi-true story of an immigrant's journey to America. Will Dom make it back? He wants to go see Mama. He wants to head back to Italy. We'll find out as we continue. Now, in the last chapter, that's what I'm opening here, my little descriptions. Chapter 15, Money. Since it has been a while, if you just remember, really, they've started a business where they buy a sub, they cut it into quarters, and then they sell the quarter of it for a slightly inflated price. And so the boys, Dom, Tin Pan Alley, and Gaetano have kind of been in business together. And at the end, is it Dom? Yeah, Dom ends up getting mugged and losing his 50 cents, which, remember, Gaetano wanted to hold on to. So we'll see how Gaetano feels about that. Grandinetti also loans Dom at the end, kind of fearing that he could be mugged again and that the shoes are really the most valuable thing he owns. He asks Grandinetti to borrow a penny. He promises, I'll pay you back. And he wants the penny for like a locker at the train station. If you have ever been traveling, sometimes they have like little lockers. Yeah. All right. So I think it's on 150 something. 159. Maybe this reading will be a little smoother since I already did it. Normally, this is not my day job. Well, I try to fit it in. As you can see, I'm in my classroom. But it's been hard for me to kind of squeeze in these readings. I will continue to. Yeah, but right now we're on chapter 16, More and More Money. All right. You lost both quarters? Gaetano shook his head. I told you I was robbed. They jumped me in the alley. Both? I turned my pockets inside out. See? What'd they look like, these thieves of yours? One was kind of big, bigger than you, with slick hair. The other one, I don't know. He was ordinary. Gaetano smirked. What are you, blind? No one would pay a cent for information like that. He shook his head. You look pretty good for someone who got jumped. Your face isn't so hot, but your clothes are clean. I woke up before dawn and rinsed my clothes in the pond and washed myself off. Your clothes dried that fast? Gaetano tapped his foot. Seems like Gaetano almost doesn't believe him here. I didn't want to tell him that my clothes dried fast because I'd been running around for hours. After I got my shoes out of baggage deposit at the station, I stacked fruit at Grandinetti's and earned a tomato for myself and a badly bruised orange that I shared with Tin Pan Alley at his corner. Gaetano would say it was stupid of me to give Tin Pan Alley oranges, but I was going to give Tin Pan Alley an orange every morning I worked. The look on his face as he ate was worth it. I told Tin Pan Alley about the thieves, and he didn't get mad, and that was before he knew I had an orange to share. All he said was, I hate thieves. I could tell he'd been robbed before, lots of times. I looked at Gaetano now and shrugged. Tato, Gaetano scratched behind his ear. What, you think I hid the money someplace? You don't trust me? He grinned. That's what I asked you yesterday. If you'd given me all the money, we'd be 50 cents richer. Am I right? Yeah. I put out his hand. Trust from now on. He put out his hand, excuse me. Trust from now on. I shook his hand. How come you're not crazy mad that our money's gone? So cadute l'anel maso restante e dente. Again, I apologize for my butchered Italian, trying my best. Took Spanish in high school, didn't do great at that. I see. But Italian, I'm sorry for butchering that. The expression, though, means the rings have fallen away, but our fingers remain. So like, it could be worse. We still have something. So we lost some valuables, but we have our health. And we've still got the quarter in my pocket. This is what Gaetano says. And we've still got the quarter in my pocket. Let's get to work. That was Uncle Aurelio's kind of optimism. Bad things happen, but you don't miss a step. Gaetano could make a decent Jew. I didn't tell him that, though. We bought the long sandwich at Pierno's and cut it in fourths. The block before we got to Tin Pan Alley's corner, Gaetano stopped. You stay here with the sandwiches. Let me check things out. Why? His padrone. Or don't you remember? Oh, I had to confess. Tin Pan Alley's all right. I saw him this morning. He was alone. Oh, yeah? Gaetano looked hurt. The two of you are close, huh? Well, I think I'll just go ahead anyway to check if that padrone's come back. Right, the padrone could have shown up again by this time of morning. I hugged the sandwiches and stood against a building wall. The walkers were so thick, I couldn't see past them. I couldn't see Tin Pan Alley's corner. A woman came out of the nearest door and said something to me in English. I moved over to the next building. What was keeping Gaetano? Finally, he appeared beside me. The area is clear. And Tin Pan Alley? The Moog's playing his triangle. You go sell with him. I'm going to patrol. If I spy his padrone, I'll come get you fast. Over the next hour and a half, we sold 4 sandwiches, each one for a full quarter. So to guys in fancy suits, and no sign of the padrone. Soon, I sat on the curb outside the paper mill in Chatham Square, waiting while Gaetano bought the roll of brown paper, basking in that day's luck. 2 customers had been repeats from the day before. The new ones were friends of theirs. One of them said that if we sold sandwiches at lunch break that day, he'd send down a few of his friends. Tin Pan Alley swore we'd have plenty for everyone. So there you go. They're getting word of mouth advertising, meaning people are recommending it. So they're getting more customers that way. I could practically feel the ship ticket in my pocket. 1,000 sandwiches would be sold in no time. I looked around. Yes, goodbye to New York. Good riddance. And out of nowhere, there they were, the thieves. I sat tall. The big boy's hair was so slick it glistened in the sun. They stood on the north side of the street, watching. They didn't even have the decency to turn their heads away when our eyes met. I leapt to my feet. But then what? Surely they wouldn't jump me here in front of everyone. Besides, I had no money on me. The quarters we'd made so far that day were in Gaetano's pocket. My heart beat hard. I wanted to run. What's the matter? Gaetano came out of the factory with the roll of paper in his arm. I pointed. Gaetano looked at the boys. They looked back. Those are the guys who robbed me. Oh, yeah? I figured as much. Maurizio is the only thief I know who uses ape snot in his hair. He gave them a wave and walked leisurely toward Park Street. So there, Gaetano means like the old hair product, kind of grease, to grease back your hair. You can tell I'm not using that. I walked beside him, looking back at the boys. Why'd you do that? Why'd you wave as though they're buddies or something? I'm not buddies with anyone, Gaetano said. Then he winked at me. Except you, that is. He sort of swaggered now. They stay out of my way, I stay out of theirs. They stole some of your money yesterday. No, they didn't. Not as far as they know. They think they stole your money. They'd never steal mine. Why not? My big brother. He'd stab them. You have a brother? I told you not to ask about my family. I could have bitten my tongue. Anyway, this time I'll answer because we're buddies. No brother. But they don't know that. He stopped outside Pierno's. If you ever talk to them, remember, they've done wrong to you, not to me. If they think they got away with robbing me, then nothing protects me anymore. You got it? Can't your big brother protect me too? Here, he gave me 75 cents. I went into Pierno's, bought 3 long sandwiches, and came out holding them in a bundle tied together with string. Where'd you get the string? Asked Gaetano. Pierno tied them, without my even asking, and he smiled at me. I'm becoming his best customer. Not you, you mook. He thinks whoever you're working for is his best customer. You're just a kid. We We walked toward Grandinetti's. I kept looking around for the thieves. What are we going to do, Gaetano? About what? Our money, for one. I can keep the money safe. What if you can't? I said. I can, with my big brother's help. I twisted my fingers through the string around the sandwiches. Well, what about that roll of paper? You already admitted you don't have any place to store it where it won't get rained on. I'll come up with something. I looked over my shoulder again. The thieves, a block back. Gaetano didn't say anything. They won't know I don't have money on me, I said. They'll jump me any time. They'll get me alone. They'll jump me anytime they get me alone. After a few times of finding nothing in your pockets, they'll stop. I don't want to get jumped. It hurts. Where do they live? What? Said Gaetano in surprise. I want to make sure I don't go on their street. I can't help you. Tell me, I said. You don't get it, do you? I don't know where they live, okay? I don't ask. That's how it is with the kids in 5 Points. He stuck his finger in my chest. I'll see you later. For now, I've got to come up with a place to stash this roll of paper. I hadn't realized that don't ask was the code of the whole neighborhood. It took a second to sink in, then I ran and caught up to him. Grandinetti's, I said. Remember, that's the perfect place. He's Calabrese, said Gaetano. He might act nice now, but if he gets mad at us, there's no telling what he'll do. You're wrong, and he can keep our money safe, too. I can keep the money safe, said Gaetano. It's going to be a lot soon. Your pockets aren't big enough. Stop talking. I've got to think. We fell into step in silence. Grandinetti was busy with the morning shoppers. He rushed about counting out fruits and weighing vegetables and wrapping everything in newsprint from the Italian paper. But we couldn't wait if we were going to sell sandwiches to the lunch crowd, so I stood behind Grandinetti and whispered, Can we use the knife? Where? My counter's busy now. You can see that. In your storeroom. He looked at my bundle of long sandwiches, then he shook his prayer hands at me. Be careful. Let your friend use the knife. He jerked his chin toward Gaetano. He's older. While Gaetano cut the sandwiches, I wrapped them. The pile was high. How can we carry them all? We searched around the storeroom and came up with an empty bushel basket. Gaetano started throwing the sandwiches in it. My hand stayed his arm. We have to ask first. He likes you. Just realized I'm not wearing my glasses. Which is why I keep squinting. He likes you. We have to ask first. He likes you. He'll say yes, especially if the sandwiches are already in. All right, but let me do it. I arranged the sandwiches neatly in 3 layers. I went into the room, the main part of the store. There was only one customer left, and she was taking her time choosing lettuce. I tapped Grandinetti on the arm. He followed me into the storeroom. What's this? Could we borrow this basket, I said, just for a few hours, please? Okay, but I need it tonight. I promise. I gave Grandinetti back his knife and handed him a wrapped sandwich, a whole one, not just some small piece. Lunch, I said with a smile. Grandinetti looked at me. You didn't have to do that, Don. Gaetano stood the roll of brown paper against the wall of the storeroom. And we'll leave our paper as security. You mean you have no place else to keep it? Grandinetti turned to me and shook his prayer hands. Are you trying to be a fox on me? No tricks, you hear? We're just trying to do business, I said, and we need your help. No tricks. All right, you can leave the roll of paper, Grandinetti kept his eyes on me. Get out of here now. Thank you, I said. Gaetano took one of the wire basket handles and I took the other. We carried the sandwiches out through the store. Gaetano stopped in the doorway. He looked at me and pointed with his thumb down the street. One of the thieves leaned against a wall, watching Grandinetti's store. One more thing, said Gaetano to Grandinetti. Would you walk outside holding that knife and shake it at Dom? What? Then turn toward Chatham Square and shake it high in the air? Like you're threatening someone. You're putting on a play? Asked Grandinetti. 2 guys are after me, I said. One of them's watching. Is that how you got the fat lip? I nodded. Grandinetti sighed. I don't want my customers to see me shaking a knife. Then just point it, said Gaetano. You don't have to shake it. All right, already, get out of here, Grandinetti. Shoot us out the door. He pointed the knife at me, then he swung it in an arc and pointed toward Chatham Square. The thief took off running. Gaetano really was smart. And one last thing, said Gaetano. Basta, said Grandinetti. Enough is enough. Just a little towel, Gaetano cocked his head and shifted his weight, and somehow his whole appearance changed. He seemed much younger, more in need of help. We have to cover the basket so no one knows what's in it. Otherwise, kids will snatch sandwiches as we're walking. Grandinetti slapped his palm on his forehead. Then he put his fists on his hips. On one condition. What? You cut the bull with me. No more phony talk about the paper being security. No more acts. You treat me straight, I'll treat you straight. Gaetano offered his hand, all grown up again. Gaetano, he said. Francesco, said Grandinetti. They shook. Grandinetti took the towel from his shoulder and spread it over the sandwiches. Get out of here. But have that basket and towel back before I close. So there, finally, Grandinetti kind of is like, listen, if you keep it real and you're honest with me, I'll be honest with you, and I'll do you these favors, but quit trying to be tricky about this. Just shoot me straight. Within a few minutes of our arriving at Tin Pan Alley's corner, a trickle of people came out of the buildings. The lunch break was just starting. You better patrol, I said to Gaetano. It's okay, said Tin Pan Alley. My padrone came by while you were gone. I bet he's off eating now. He looked at a passing man. Sandwiches, he called out in English, the best in town. What's that mean? I asked. When he told me, I practiced the words under my breath. Sandwiches, the best in town. Sandwiches, the best in town. Gaetano unwrapped a whole sandwich and slowly ate it. We hadn't talked about each of us getting a whole sandwich. Now we'd only have 8 to sell, but I'd started it by giving Grandinetti a whole sandwich. I felt faint with hunger. The bigger he chewed, the fainter I felt. But the more sandwiches we sold, then it was Tin Pan Alley's turn to eat. Sandwiches, I called out, the best in town. Gaetano smirked. Listen to you try to speak English. You sound worse than Tin Pan Alley. He sounds good to me, said Tin Pan Alley. He sounds perfect. Go on, Dom. The best in town, I called. A woman bought a sandwich. Gaetano stared at me. I strutted. I couldn't help it. Then it was my turn to eat. When I'd ordered the sandwiches at Pierno's, I'd thought about getting one without meat, but I figured it wouldn't sell as well. So now I picked out the meat. Gaetano watched me. That's not salami, that's ham. What, you don't like ham either? I shook my head. Well, don't do the dog routine again. Why not? It's not fair. I won't act like a dog so Tin Pan Alley gets more meat than me. If you're going to give away your ham, give half to me. Wait, said Tin Pan Alley. He pulled slices of cheese out of his pocket. I saved my cheese in case you didn't like the meat today either. I can trade for your meat. So I ate my thick cheese sandwich. We sold out, and still there were people asking for sandwiches. We'll have more tomorrow, said Tin Pan Alley in English. Bring your friends. We'll have lots more. Then he told us what he'd promised. Good work. See you tomorrow. I put 25 cents in Tin Pan Alley's cup. He looked at it. That's 5 more than we agreed on. That's right, said Gaetano. At least the moot can count. 5 extra are for yesterday. I didn't look at Gaetano as I spoke, and tomorrow we'll start earlier and sell more. So it'll take more of your time. So we'll put more in your cup. I turned and picked up the empty basket. You got some weird ways, Gaetano said. But you're the king. If that's the way you want to play it, okay. Give me the money now. It's $1.75, I said, tightening my arms around the basket. I can count. That's way too much to keep in your pocket overnight. You're the one who got robbed, not me. Grandinetti could keep it for us, I said. We already talked about that, Gaetano growled. No, turn it over, now. I gave him the money. Can you spare a penny? Gaetano wiped his mouth and looked at me. If you take a penny, that leaves us a penny short when we go to buy sandwiches tomorrow. I mean one of your own pennies. Can you spare one? He turned his head away. Then he handed me a penny without even looking at me. When we split the profits, you owe me. He walked off. I returned the basket and towel to Grandinetti, checked my shoes into baggage at the train station, and went to Central Park for the night. All right. right, so there we go. Probably a choppy reading of Chapter 16, More and More Money of The King of Mulberry Street by Donna Jo Napoli. I don't know if I mentioned that at the beginning. The King of Mulberry Street, Donna Jo Napoli. Again, I want to thank Jennifer G. of Madison, New Jersey, and the students of Madison, New Jersey as well. I appreciate your following along. Please like and subscribe, and I will continue here. I will provide the ending for The King of Mulberry Street. I promise you. Just a few things here as we look off. The boys are doing well with the business. One thing to keep in mind I wanted to mention was because Dom's kind of confused here. Gaetano does not have an older brother, and Dom doesn't quite get the purpose behind Gaetano's making up the older brother. So Gaetano tells other kids like, "Oh, I've got an older brother, so don't mess with me because you don't want to deal with my older brother. He'll come after you." There's no older brother, but it's just kind of a threat. If these thieves know that they took Gaetano's money as well as Dom's, and no big brother appears, they don't, there's no payback. They're going to realize, oh, he's lying. He's been putting us on, and now we can make him a victim. So Gaetano is kind of like, don't mention me. They don't know that they took from me. I don't want them to know that because they wouldn't mess with me because of my quote unquote older brother, my fake older brother. So a little trick of the streets there that Dom just goes right over his head. So I wanted to mention that. And then also at the end, if you remember, why does Dom ask to borrow a penny? Well, he needs the penny for the little shoe locker that he has at the train station. Okay, I hope you enjoyed, and I swear I will come back now to The King of Mulberry Street. I know it's been a while, but we're so close. We've got to finish. Keep following. Thank you. Take it easy.